Absolutely.
Okay, so hi everybody. So today we have Mr. Sanvi here to present about his experience as a leader in the type business and how you can be successful in the type business. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello everyone. So very quickly, who is the youngest person here?
I'm 14. Anyone younger than 14?
Okay. All right. And who is there? Who is in senior year? Wonderful. All right. So we have. What grade are you in?
I'm in 8th grade.
8th, and you? 8th also. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So I have a few things prepared for us to discuss. I don't really know what is your interest, so I'm just going to give you guys a very high-level overview, and then we can just have a conversation, right? And feel free to interrupt me at any time with any question. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I work at Google. I've been there for a little bit over 7 years. I'm a director there, and I lead a business team. And I'll tell you a little bit more about exactly what I do. Have you guys used Google Maps this month?
Every day.
All right, I love you guys. Great. So now tell me, what do these logos or images have in common?
Transportation.
Really? I know that the parents will not know anything about this.
Oh yeah. Cars.
Don't even try.
Cars.
Cars? What else?
Driving.
What does this have to do with cars?
Adventure.
So this one is Monster Strike. I don't know if you guys are into mobile games. Jurassic World.
Oh, yeah.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yes.
There are logos.
Okay. Great. So all these companies, I work with them. They all use Google Maps technology. So if you get in the Tesla, you're gonna see a big Google Maps in the car, right? You have the same thing in some version. Yes. In some version of those cars, in some models, they use some sort of Google technology, Google Maps technology somewhere. Obviously, pretty much every ride-sharing company, we partner with them, and we supply them technology to enable them to offer the service that they use. And obviously, things like Pokemon Go, for example, it's a location-based game. There are several others, and we work with all those ones. So my team is responsible for these partnerships, and what that means is we have business deals with them, and also we have engineering partnership with them. Great. So you know, this is mainly my focus. However, my first job is this one. This is my primary job. So I have 3 kids, 3 teenagers, and a lovely wife. And that's where I spend most of my time. Another thing, we homeschool our kids. So the oldest just went to college, and he got a full ride to University of Pittsburgh. He's studying biology and computer science. Great. Now, I'm sure that you guys always wonder what do people at Google, what do they do exactly? So maybe I should ask the kids, who can tell me exactly what their parents do? who knows exactly what their dad do or their mom? Yes.
CAD.
He does CAD? What does that mean?
Like ship engineering. Like, well, he focuses on both. I think he focuses on both software and hardware.
Okay.
And he specializes in both.
Wonderful, wonderful. What about you? Yes, you.
All I know is that my dad's a computer engineer.
What? Very good. So everything everyone does always helps somebody, right? So whatever software he's writing, whatever thing he's doing is in order to help someone, right? So technical execs, I'll just give you a very high level of what they do. They spend a lot of time, I personally spend a lot of time in Gmail. That's my main tool. I send emails all day. I prepare presentations. I write documents about strategy, about different things. So, spend most of my days in meetings. And if your dad tells you they're doing hard work at work, really most of the time they're in meetings, just arguing. In my case, because I work with companies from all over the world, so I travel a lot. I'm getting to the point where my kids are old enough where I'm gonna start taking my wife with me, and then I'm gonna make it a little bit more enjoyable. And then you give presentations. And the one thing that's most business leaders do almost all the time, even without knowing. Every time they're talking to somebody, they're always asking themselves, can I hire this person? So you're always looking for talent. And also sometimes you have hard discussion with your team because things are not going right and where they have to fix whatever they're doing. So, when you boil it down, it's really 5 things that they do, right? The right things, meet with people all the time. In my case, I travel quite a bit, give presentation, and then hire people. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. How did I get to where I am today? So I was born and I grew up in Togo. Anybody knows where Togo is? About where?
Africa. Right? Is that Africa?
It is in Africa. Which part of Africa? So ever since I moved to the US, I put a $100 in my pocket.
What?
Every time I meet somebody that knows where Togo is, I give me the $100. And I still have the $100. So if anything, that's Togo is on the coast of West Africa. It's a very tiny country. It almost looks like a landing airport landing piste there. I was there until I finished high school there. And after high school, I moved to Europe. I went to France. Then I went to school there. Got my master's degree in computer science. And I became a software engineer. Very quickly, I realized that software engineer wasn't enough for me because I like to talk to people. And software engineer, you tend to be by yourself and writing code. That's great, but I needed more. So being in France and speaking French, I was working for a Canadian company. And I saw all the guys that were the leaders in the company were very fluent in English. Maybe I need to get my English to the next level. I wasn't a big fan of the UK, so I said, all right, I'm just going to go to the US, to North America at least. So I went out, looked for a job. I got a job with a different company. And then I told my boss that I was leaving. And they told me, if you hang in there for another 3 months, you might be. So the company that I got a job with was in Canada. So they told me, hey, if you finish whatever you're doing now, and it's going to take you about 3 months, we'll send you to Miami. Okay, wow, that's much better. So, and indeed that's what happened. So I went to Miami, and at that point I became like a consultant where I was working with companies in South America. And after I've done that, I really wanted to work on my English. But when I was in Miami, most of the time I was speaking Spanish, working with Latin American countries. So at one point, told my wife it's about time that we moved to the real US. So we moved to Detroit, Michigan. And again, that was something that we wanted to do for a year or two, just to discover a little bit more about America. And we ended up being there for 10 years. I was working for General Motors. And well, I was having fun at work. Everything was going well. And at some point my wife, gave me an ultimatum that the snow was too much. She didn't want to deal with the cold anymore, that we had to move. And then I decided to come to the West Coast. And here we are. All right, so now what I've learned for you guys that you guys need to pay attention to, it's really about communication. It doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter what great ideas you are, you have to learn how to communicate. And there are really three parties that you have to be able to communicate with and do that really well, in my mind. The first one, you have to be able to communicate with human beings, right, in all forms. Written communication, to be able to give presentations, to be able to resolve conflicts, to be able to convince people, and it is so critical, right? That's really what makes us human beings, right? To be able to communicate the right way. And again, for me, that's what I try to emphasize with my children. The second entity that you have to be able to communicate with, can you guess it? Anyone?
Your family.
They are humans. Yes.
Bosses.
He's a human too. Some are humans. The next one that you have to be able to communicate with are computers. It doesn't matter what you do, right? Even if you don't like computer, you have to be able to. It's like there are some people that don't like writing, usually boys. They don't like writing. But it's not because you don't like writing that you don't have to have a minimum writing. So, my daughter is big into psychology, but I still encourage her to learn a little bit more about computers, programming. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Computer is a very important entity. It's going to become even more important in the future. And the last one, that one is a little more personal. I'm a Christian, and from my point of view, you have to be able to communicate with an entity that is bigger than you. In our case, that is God. And it is quite. I find it super helpful in my life. If I didn't have that channel of communication, the pressure that you get from work, the pressure from your family, and even just being humble and be able to deal with people, will be very difficult, right? And let alone the eternal implication that those things have. So again, just like I tell my kids, I do everything I can to encourage them, right? So when it comes to communication, everybody in my family competes in speech and debate, right? So when I'm at work, I'm debating, I'm arguing all day long. And when I come home, I have another set of debaters. And before I go to bed, I also have to have a conversation with my wife, not argue. And again, all the tools that you need to be able to do those three things are important in my mind. All right. So what do I look for when I'm looking for a candidate or trying to hire somebody, when I'm assessing and evaluating people? And again, rule of communication are always three. So there are three things. I'm looking for intellectual horsepower, right? I'm looking for people that are smart, that think fast, that are critical thinkers, right? that ask questions. That will never go out of style, right? These are fundamental. Therefore, I encourage any kids, right? If you see them, I try to ask questions and always evaluating how people think, how people solve problems, right? Those are, you always have a job if you know how to do those things. The second thing that we look for are people that tend to take action, right? People that have high energy, that are always on the go, right? That cannot just sit still, right? Are always pushing, are very motivated, and just have energy, right? And usually those people easily go up into leadership roles, right? Because that's what everybody's looking for, right? Who can get people to move a group of people to accomplish a mission, right? And this one here, I couldn't figure out which image to use, but it has to do with integrity, right? If somebody tells you they're going to do something, you want them to deliver on those things, right? If they're going to be late, you want them to give you a heads up, right? They don't cut corners. They're very straight. They tell it as it is. They have conviction. I found out that in my job, there are situations where things get very, very tricky. I'm very lucky that I work for a company that is very open, that encourage tough conversations, so you can invoke those principles, right? Hasn't always been like that in some other companies that I've been, where it was a little bit more political, but integrity is something that is very big for me, right? So if you cannot trust the people that you work with, it's game over, right? So when I hire people, I want to be able to know if this person, right, I look for the stuff that they're telling me, is this consistent, right? Because I don't want any blemish, right? I don't want any spot on it. And that just makes my life much more easier, right? Then you can trust the team and you don't have to micromanage people, right? I just tell you, hey, this is the hill that we have to take, and you go for it, right? If you need a resource, you come back, we get you the resource. When you're independent, I know you're going to make the right decisions. So how does that translate to kids? When you're a kid, how do you do those things? It's so simple, right? I mean, very simple. If you lie, basically you're telling the person that they're more powerful than you, right? So don't lie. Just get in that habit. Don't say half-truth, right? When the teacher says, hey, this homework is due on this day, just get in the habit of turning things on time, right? This is the fight that I have with my kids all the time. Even among your friends, right? You should be the person of one word. When you say, hey, I'm gonna be there at a certain time, don't call the person last minute because something more interesting came up, right? Because that friend made plans. Just those little things, right? That's what build that character. And it's just add up little by little, but it compounds. All right. And then this is my last slide. It's a little bit more vague, but I think that for when you are young, you don't really know what you're passionate about. Some people are lucky, they can find it out early and, they'll be happy, right? But when it takes a while to figure out really what you're passionate about. So therefore, as a young person, look for opportunity to try different things. I'm sure that you guys have heard that many times already. But it is, when you find what you're passionate about, if it is something that the world needs, right? There are certain things that you can be passionate about, but the world doesn't need it that much. But if the world needs it, and because you're passionate about it, you spend a lot of time practicing, learning, investing into that thing. When you have those three things, you become very successful. And not only you're successful, but I mean, successful financially, but you're just more happy, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're all striving for. That's it. Now let's go questions. We can have a conversation. I want to see people that communicate. Yes?
How many languages do you speak?
So if you consider I speak English, that would be, so 3 fluently, right? My African language, I speak French, I speak English, and I have some residuals of Spanish from my dad. I wish I had learned Chinese because I work with a lot of Chinese companies, but I think at this point, maybe when I retire, I'll be done.
Why did you make a decision to homeschooling your kids?
So why decision to homeschool our kids? Because I'm lucky, very fortunate that I have a wife that is as crazy as me. But at the end of the day, and again, I'm a geek, I do everything to minimize stress. That's for myself, I try to minimize for my kids. When the kids, and we live in the Silicon Valley, right? There's so many opportunities. There's so many things kids can explore. By the time they just go to school and do all the things they have to do, and then they come home and do all the other activities, that's a lot, right? So that's the first reason, right? So I made a calculation, and I told my kids, and nobody was able to take me on it. If you work every day, just 3 hours, you get into an Ivy League. Every day, your high school time, if you're homeschool, you work, focus, Pomodoro, right? We have Pomodoro thing where you measure to help you stay focused. Only 3 days, every day, that's the secret. Every day, summer, just every day, work 3 hours. It's more than enough. So, my kids, they take class, online, they take class in different schools here, they can do sports, and you just have to pay for it. And so that's great. So that's the second thing. So therefore, they can play guitar with no stress. They can read all morning. They do speech and debate. They travel quite a bit. But also the religious aspect for us, right? So we want them to grow up to have deep roots, and then when they go to college, they can take philosophy. They know how to think about the world, right? So that's the third reason, and the fourth reason is, it's you save money when everybody's at school. Vacations are cheaper. Playing hotels and so on and so forth. So it has many benefits. The downside is the social aspect. They have a lot of social interaction. I mean, they're part of many clubs and even the way we do homeschool is there's a co-op that they go to 2 days a week. So there are a lot of kids there. It's different sport. But the downside that I'm observing is there's this aspect of competitive aspect, right? Where you have older kids and they don't always have that aspect, right? So there are some kids that are just naturally highly driven, right? And they usually focus on what they're passionate about. That's the only downside. And also the other downside is they're not exposed to too many bad things. But we try to be open and discuss those things. Yes?
Not all kids are self-motivated. How do you motivate your kids?
How do I motivate them?
Yeah.
Just starve them. Don't give them food.
What?
So how do we motivate our kids?
So they are self-motivated.
Use the Asian grading scale.
So here's the thing. Maybe I should touch on that. I see 2 challenges that the kids have today that I didn't have, right? And this is not a joke. They cannot focus. Video games, social media.
Exactly.
Those 2 things are just way too powerful for the kids, right? So we just have a deal, right? There is a time for it. So I'm a dad, right? I'm powerful. So we control those things, right? You know, for the case of Google, right, you have a family link, you can control the time, the stuff that they do. When it comes to grades or turning things in, just talking, right? I mean, these kids, all the kids that are here, I mean, they're, you know, just by the mere fact that you're sitting here, you're already exceptional, right? So explaining and just say, hey, this is disappointing, and so on and so forth. And sometimes we bribe, right? If there is a book that I want them to read, I'll put money on it. Say, if you read it, I'll pay you. Yeah. Sometimes, as far as, I don't know, maybe I should ask them, how do I motivate you? We don't punish per se. We'll take away a few things, right? Because I'm the driver, right? I'm the Uber driver, my wife is the Uber driver. So maybe there's some social gathering that they will not go to, right? But mainly we try to work on, you know, you promised us that you're gonna do X, Y, Z, and you better have a good reason why it's not happening. But it's just a constant battle, right? And the enemy is, you know, distractions. Social media, smartphone, mobile games. So those things are great. I work in those things, and I know how powerful they are for children, and therefore parents, you know, you cannot give the keys of your car to your kids. You know, you have to go get a license, right? And these tools, if you don't use them properly. The good news is they've seen their parents work hard, so hopefully at some point they will wake up, and but they will lose some time. That's the challenge. Yes.
What math did you learn in high school?
What, math?
Yeah, like geometry.
All sort of like, I learned them all. I don't remember them all, but I learned them all. That's a very good question, because sometimes I wonder, all the things that I've learned at school, what do I use today, right? I did all sort of crazy math, right? I mean, I went to engineering school. If I was like my friend here, doing CAD and doing all sort of projection, all those things, you use heavy math. The stuff I do today, the math just help me think right? I just have framework in my mind that just help me think clearly and communicate clearly. And also on the technology side, I work with engineers, I work with product managers. I can understand things, right? I understand input, outputs, right? I can go to certain level details. I know enough to be dangerous and for people to think that I know what I'm talking about. But it just gives me confidence, right? Because if you don't do those things, when you get in those conversations, you'll be a little bit shaky. But because you have a good foundation, you'll be very confident in those things. But yes, I did all sort of math. Yes.
You know, is USACO good for you if you want to become a computer engineer?
The competition?
Yeah, USACO.
Yes.
USA Computer Olympiad.
Yes. It's a great event. I would encourage you to do it if that's something that you're very passionate about. And again, you know, life is a competition. Not everybody wins. You have to learn to accept, you know, defeat also. But I try to avoid competition. That's just my nature. I look at where are my strengths. I try to go somewhere where I don't have too many competition. Right? Not just me. But you can avoid it always. Yes.
I got a question. So you graduated from when you're like a Tokyo country.
High school, yes.
High school, then go to France.
Yes.
Is that competitive for you to be going there, or you just a normal average you can?
No, I mean I was really good at school, right?
How good is that?
Very good. I did like advanced math. I mean, the system is a little bit different, but that year, my whole high school, there were only 3 people that passed that year.
So
right?
you are very competitive.
Yeah, it was competitive. I mean, you know, competition is great, but I just try to avoid it so I can win all the time. So, yeah, it was competitive. I mean, when going to France, right, I was growing in Africa, you go to France, you have, you know, I was, you know, 18, just got on the plane and go to France, right? And a lot of people here have done something similar. And you just hustle through things, you stay focused, you keep an eye on the prize, I don't come, my family is fairly well off. So, it's not like, I come from Africa and I come from some village somewhere. I was in the city, my dad had a car, we were well off. But still, you still have to work, right? You still have to work hard. So in that sense, I was a little bit privileged. But, I had some good models that I knew that, hey, if you put in the work, the result will be there.
So, can you give us some little detail about how hard you study? Like
How hard?
Yeah, like when you go to bed.
It's not going to be encouraging to your kids.
Actually, you're a good model. So I
So-
think for this detail, they can maybe get some sense from how hard it should be and how hard you can reach in certain
Yes.
level.
So I wish I had worked, especially high school. I worked hard and I got into good school, right? So how hard? So when people say they work hard, what does that mean? Because I had a lot of time to think about these things. It's very simple. It's all about number of hours. If I am a construction worker and I'm working hard, I have to carry heavy things, I have to line up. That's hard work, right? But for us, it's just here. And this, we measure in terms of time. That's why I did a calculation for my kids. It's just the number of time you spend on something, you're gonna get the result. It's just time. So when you say how hard, I wasn't mature enough to track it, but school was easy for me, right? So I enjoyed it. I wasn't, I was playing a lot. The conditions were different, but I always had good results, right? Maybe my competition wasn't as strong, right? Therefore, I didn't have to put a lot of effort to be above everybody else. Therefore, high school, to me, it didn't even count. I really worked hard when I got to college, right? Because then, I was in a different environment, and everything became a little bit more competitive, and it became harder. So that I remember, right? Because you have to make sacrifice at that point, where you don't go out with your friends, right? Where you stay in your room and you study, right? You study all the time. And at that point, yes, I was working. That's the only thing I did. No friends. I was just working. And also, the other thing that, because I had to pay also. So I had my little startup on the side that I was doing also to make money so I can pay for stuff, right? So it was just work.
That paid off, I guess. How you think, when you look back right now, is that worse or
yeah.
not?
So the one regret that I have is that when I started working, for my first company, then I thought I was done, right? So I'll do work at work and get promotion. Had I been smarter now with what I know, and by the way, for the kids, if you want to be successful, you just need to look at what you do in your free time. That's what makes you successful. When you don't have your free time is that's the determinant of your success. So when I was working, I'll go to work, I'll do work, and then I have free time. And I didn't use that free time. I should have continued in my startup and do those type of things, right? But you're collecting a paycheck and life is good, and So again, hard work is a function of time, how much time you put into it. And success is usually a function of what you do with your free time. That's what I'll have to say. Yes?
Hi, today's topic is about leadership, right? How do you build up your leadership?
Sure. So let me ask you this question. How do you know a leader when you see it? So I've been giving my son dating advice. Okay? Yeah, he's in college now, so I better. So, look, in my mind, and I see all my friends' kids, because now it becomes like a second nature for me, right? I'm always trying to hire people. So I see all the friends. The ones that are always doing, let's do this. Let's. To me, that's a leader. Who is the one that is taking initiatives, right? So they have their friends. There is always one or two that's like, let's go to the beach. Let's do this. Let's do that, right? That person, in my mind, sooner or later, you're gonna become a leader, right? And then, but if you're passive, right, there's nothing wrong with it, right? There are people that need to be thinkers, right? They don't have to be always doing stuff, right? That have to think and write, right? But when it comes to leadership, will people follow you? When you say, let's do this, will somebody follow you, right? So some people have it naturally. Some people have to do it because you were put in that situation, right? In my case, I believe that I was put in that situation, and then I just learned and observe and read, and then companies, they train you to do those things. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you help your kids or help your team member de-stress? In the school or in the work environment, for example, there's a deadline, you get something resolved, debug something done, project due today. How do you help your team member de-stress?
Okay, so how do I help my kids or my team deal with stress?
Yes.
There are some cases where I'm the one putting the stress on them.
Absolutely.
Both my kids or my teams. It really depends. There's certain things that are outside of our control, right? And then you just have to be humble and recognize that. We've done everything we know how, right? That's it. So I try to put that into perspective. Say, hey, you've done your best, right? There's nothing else. And in other cases where there's more to be done, then we just get into problem-solving mode, where I just go down and just help them, just asking questions, right? What about this? What about that? And so on and so forth. With my kids is, well, what are the options that we have, right? How much more time do we have for this homework? What do you need? Do we need to go to the library to go get some books? So in many cases, most people don't really need your help. They just need you to understand their situation, right? And they just come along with that. That's all they need. When it comes to work, I try hard to not send email to people under me over the weekend, right? Not in the evening, I don't do it. Usually I'll write the email and I'll put a time on it. So we'll send it. So Monday morning, a lot of people get a lot of email from me, right? It was all. So that way people are not stressed because we all carry our phones with us. For my kids, there are some that are kind of stress-prone, where you want them to be a little bit stressed about the situation. And there are some others that really, really care, that are very driven. And then I do the opposite. I say, look, even if you get a C, it's not the end of the world. Right? Life will go on. What I want to make sure is you didn't just slack out. You just became lazy, and now the consequences are here, right? But usually the kids that worry about their stuff, usually they're pretty conscientious. Therefore, I have to do the opposite. I have to balance it and tell them, hey, you'll be successful no matter what, because you've been reading books, that's all you need, right? So you have to balance it, and this environment is very competitive already, right? So I see my role as a parent to kind of, reduce that, and they'll be fine. Yes?
For a lot of engineers, and also for kids who are good at math and science, they are not very good at communication. Do you have any suggestion on how to, for adults as well as kids, how to improve their communication?
So it's practice. There are techniques. Right? So it's just like if you want your kids to become good at basketball, you do everything you can for them to become good basketball players. They can, right? Now, in our case, right, we pay private coach for speech and debate. There's a lady that we pay, she's really, really good, right? You put them in clubs, that's gonna force them to do that. You put them in leadership position where they have to introduce somebody, right? So it's not comfortable for them. Therefore, you have to either pay them, you have to put some carrots in front of them, but explain to them that you need this, right? You don't need to be the most inspiring speaker, right? But just like I said, some people, especially the ones that are good at math, they don't like to write. It was like me, I don't like to write essays, right? My daughter can write 10 pages, right? But you still have to do the minimum. So therefore, we force them to interact with adults. We force them to, you know, every opportunity that there is, right? Where we push them. I do a game with my kids. When we go to a party or to a place, we say, okay, let's see who's gonna meet the most people. Just go around, introduce yourself, and just be like a detective or a journalist. Get interested in people, what do they do? And then we do it, right? And whoever wins will get something, right? But again, we agree that it is not our comfort zone, right? This is not easy, right? And therefore, and you just keep doing it, and you know, and you go to a restaurant. I'm not ordering. You talk to the waiter, right? So we just force it. Now there's some kids that talk too much, so those ones you have to like. Yes.
I want to understand that you are very competitive in high school, but you decide to go abroad to pursue higher education. So what's the reason you're not studying in US and instead go to France? And what's the advantages or disadvantages when you graduate and come back to workforce in US? What do you think?
Yes, so you came late.
Sorry, I was struggling. Yeah.
I wasn't born in the US. I was born in Africa.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved to Europe. And after I moved to the US. Now, if I have a child, as a matter of fact, I offer it to my kids. And that's the other thing a deal that we have with them is you can take 1 year, one gap year. You know, that's gonna be on me. And then, but you need to come with a project. What are you gonna do with 1 year of your life? You know, if you want to travel, for what reason, right? So, one of my kids is thinking about going to the UK after high school, right? There's a program in France, so they're very good for high schoolers. I'm very supportive of those things, right? Because it's very important for them to go and understand all the systems, right? How the school system works in other countries, how healthcare works in other countries, how relationships work. And there's no hurry, right? I mean, 18 they go to college. 4 years they're 22. What difference 22 makes if you start working at 22 or you start working at 24? Not a big difference. So they can go waste their time in Europe as long as I don't have to pay too much for it. Why not, right? So it's really, if you can trust that, if they're responsible enough, right? I tell my kids, go study 1 year in China, right? And they don't know there, so you have to push them a little bit. But it's always good. Travel is always good to go meet other people, other culture. Yes.
Since your son is in college now, what's your advice to your son?
My son, who is in college?
Yeah, you have one in college now, right?
Yes.
So
when he was going to college, so we decided, so he left last month, right? So we spent the whole summer traveling. We spent the whole summer in Europe and in Africa. That was like a last family thing with him. And during the whole time, I was thinking, what is the advice I'm going to give this boy when I drop him off at the airport? Because I'm not taking him to the campus. I'm just going to drop him off at the airport like my dad did. So, and really, at the end of the day, I gave him 2 advice, right? I gave him one to do and one not to do. The one to do is I've asked him to read half chapter of the Bible every day. Just one half chapter. That's one thing he has to do. And the second thing that I ask him is, don't be idle, right? Don't be idle. Don't sit on your hands. Don't sit around and just waste your time, right? Do something, right? So I was talking to him yesterday, where I said, hey, you know, there's a political campaign going on. Who of these candidates do you like? Because I want him to go work for one of them. I don't care who he likes. Go join a campaign, right? Don't sit around, just play video games, right? So do something, don't be idle. So 2 advice.
How often you communicate with him?
Every day.
Nice.
You call him or he call you?
Either we're on WhatsApp,
Yeah.
right? We call each other, right, with the family, either my wife or the sisters, or him and I. When I'm going to work, I call him. I mean, we talk all the time.
He do not think you are like annoying. How you handle that, or how you establish?
So because we grew up together, right? Because I've never been a dad before, so I was trained at the same time that he was growing up, right? So, and because we homeschool, so we're very close, right? We don't have, you know, it's just normal, right? I believe that's the reason. I don't want to believe that, you know, I'm that interesting to him. If anything, him and I, we have very, very little common interests, right? He has more common interests with my wife, right? They're into, you know, Marvels and, you know, different rap singers and, you know, all those things. I don't care about that stuff. You know, I just care about scriptures and leadership, building stuff.
You mentioned self-communication is with God. How does, I'm Christian too, how does God help you in terms of your career, leadership, family? Do you go worship a lot? Do you go church?
Yes, so we go to church Sunday, right? But it is, you know, in Christianity, the way God, you learn, is the book, right? You have the Bible. So you read scripture and you think about it, right? You meditate about it. You pray, right? And when there are big problems, you bring your friends and you pray together. You sing, right? So it's really a relationship. How does that help me? I don't know, because I haven't tried other things, right? When I see other people that don't do that, I don't know how they do it, right? If I didn't have it, maybe I would be on some drugs or something. I don't know. And for me, I'm not strong enough where I can manage life, you know, love my wife, because the book says everything already. So I just follow the book. I'm not smart. I just follow the book and it makes sense to me. And when it doesn't make sense, I ask for insight. And that insight comes through meditation from what you read. Yes.
So you work in communication, right? So how do you establish good relationships with people on your own level, higher or lower position?
Yeah, people that are higher, I try to avoid them. Because they only give you work.
That makes sense.
So yeah, I try to avoid them, right? They leave me alone. I only care about people that I work with, right? Because I need them to do stuff for me and I need to do stuff for them. And then people below me, I just need to inspire them, right? When you watch football game, right? All those coaches are paid a lot of money. They don't sweat, right? So they do strategy, right? They assemble the team, and then I just try to get them motivated. That, hey, the stuff we're doing is important. I need your brain, because that's the business that we're in. We need people that think, right? So I want them to be thinking about this stuff all the time. So that's, so how do I do it? How do I do it? Usually, most people, if you give them, it is clear. So picture this. If I get in an Uber car, I have a driver, I sit in the back, and I'm sleeping. And I tell the guy, I need to go to San Francisco. I trust him that he's gonna take me to San Francisco. I don't have to wake up. I don't have to ask him, turn left, turn right. He's just gonna take me there. The only time he's gonna wake me up is if there is an accident. He wants to take alternate routes. He's gonna maybe ask my opinion, right? We have to take a detour. Are you fine with that? Right? The same way. So the key is telling people clearly where they need to go. Make sure they have gas in the car. They have all the resources that they need. And he's a good driver, so I can sleep. I met a lady, she's a CEO of Morgan Stanley. I met her on the plane. And she was unbelievable. I sat next to her, she didn't notice me. She was busy playing her video game. She was so into it. I became jealous because I don't play video games. So at some point when they brought the food, she had to stop. So as she was eating, then I asked her, wow, what game are you playing? So she said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? She said, well, I have an addictive nature. Meaning that everything I do, I tend to be addicted to it. So the only time that I play video game, that I allow myself to play video game is when I'm on a plane. Right? So she brought her console and so I said, wow, that's very interesting. Then we start talking. And she told me, oh, she went to this country, she did this, and she's coming back from 3-week vacation. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of job do you do? So there was a flight to New York. And she said, oh, she's a CEO of Morgan Stanley. I said, what? I'm not that level. I'm working like twice. How is that possible? She said, oh, it's very simple. I hire only Ivy Leagues. And those people, you just need to tell them where to go, and they do it. They do all the work. I don't have to do anything. She says, I go to work at 9, I come home at 5 in New York. So to have the team is very important. To be able to have good people, you make your life, you have less stress. And also your job now is to have the strategy. What do they need to do? What do they need to do? After that, it's fairly easy. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So you mentioned that reading is really important to you. So what are 3 books that had the most impact on your life and that you would recommend to other people?
Oh, that's a very tough question. I mean, the first one is easy, the Bible. That's a no-brainer. But I'll not put that in the 3. There's a book that I read. I don't know if it has a lot of impact on me, but it's a book that I read not long ago. It's called Atomic Habits. Like atom, like the atom, Atomic Habits. If you read that book, because you are the sum of your habits. There is a saying that, hey, bad habits are very light until you try to break it, it becomes very hard, right? So this book has, the theme is, do small things every day, and it compounds. It's like, compounding effect. So I've tried it myself. I said, hey, let me see how much push-up can I do. And I said, okay, every day I'm gonna do 1 push-up for 1 week. And every week I'm adding 1 push-up. I became very strong. I'm not gonna tell how many push-ups I got to, but it worked. It worked. So small changes, right? You need to go to the gym, just put your shoes on. You go to the gym for 5 minutes and then go home. The next time, go 10 minutes. Before you know it, just become habit because we're creatures of habit. So that's the one book that I can tell you. Another book that's, and again, my job is I do a lot of negotiations, and I believe life is just negotiation. So this book, you know, you should have your parents pay you if you read it. Yeah, it's called, I think it's The Art of Persuasion. The Art of Persuasion. I can look it up and give you the name. Basically, it's a psychological book where the author is telling you exactly if you want people to be compliant. It's like you can use it for marketing. Compliance means that you want people to do what you want. And unfortunately, we are not very different from animals. There are certain things that triggers us, that cause you to do stuff without you even know. So to give you an example, one of the examples they give in the book, if somebody says there's a copy machine, right? And there is 3 people in line to use the copy machine. If you come, you get in front of them. If you say, can I use the machine because I need to make copy? 80% of people will let you do it. But just because you use the word because. If you don't have that word in it, that percentage drops to 30%. People say no, right? So, and they teach, the book covers many things like that. And if you read it, you understand what marketing, what commercials, what they do to us. And you can use it to convince people to follow your ideas. Hopefully they're good ones. Yes?
Yes, so in general, what do you think, like, what does it take to be a good leader? To be a good leader besides the good communication skills? Like other things you like to recommend to us?
First, people have to trust you. And the way you earn trust is they have to believe that you have their best interest in mind. Right? It's just like in the army, right? How do people follow a general or a captain to go to work? So, therefore, a lot of self-sacrifice, right? People have to see you, that you sacrifice for them, right? And then they'll follow you, right? So I'll say you have to be humble. You have to be able to clearly tell them what needs to be done. And you know, you earn the credibility when they know that you can do the job yourself, right? So in my mind, those are the things that are good characteristics of a good leader. To be able to earn the trust of people, and you earn that through being humble, being, demonstrating that you have their best interest in mind, and you don't play games, right? I mean, everybody knows that when you're playing games, so you try to avoid it. Yes.
Can you also say something about, you mentioned the speaking and the debate experience you put your kids in?
Yes, so they're part of a national league, and they have several speech and debate competitions throughout California and outside of California. They're part of a club, so within the club, they practice and they study the different cases and so on and so forth. Within the speech category, there are different types of speech. There's some speech that they have to write themselves. There's some speech that they have to act out some passage of a book. And then debate is usually they're in team of 2, where there's usually for the year, they'll pick a broad topic. So they will say, for example, transportation in the US, right? And then there will be a pro and con of a question. And then the team have to take different aspects of US policy when it comes to transportation. So they'll study, what are the problems with airports, what are the problems with, trucks, and then they have to prepare briefs. And the name of the game is to know all the cases that different people are running, so you can prepare the counter arguments. So yeah, be happy to invite you. Our club hosts one of those tournaments where people come from out of state, And we always love to have, you know, people in the community to come judge. And you don't need to know anything about it. You just need to sit down and see who convinces you. All right. So that's what we do. It's very expensive when it comes to time, because it's a lot of work for the kids. And I always tell them, I'm so glad I don't have to do this. You know, they have to write a speech, they have to read a lot of books so they can know the theme that they want to talk about. I'm trying to remember one of the speech that you did.
I did a speech on grit.
Yeah, so my daughter did research grit, you know, to be able to persevere. Read a lot of books, wrote a speech on it, and that speech, I think she went very far, right?
Yeah.
You won
first
place in some tournaments. So it's a lot of work for the kids. It's a lot of work for the parents, and God bless my wife. You know, they go on tournaments for 2-3 days. But at the same time, it's a good social thing for the kids, right? They go stay in the hotel with all their friends for 2-3 days. And, you know, it has that competitive aspect, obviously. Yes?
I think we can wrap up now because we're running out of time.
Sure. So how about we take 2 more questions if there are any. Yes?
So you said that free time is very important for success. So what specifically do you do in your free time?
Yes. So again, I said that whatever you do during your free time is a good indication of how successful you'll be in life. So my advice to you is make something for somebody else. If you are passionate about video, go make YouTube videos and teach something to somebody, right? Go work for somebody, right? Whatever you do with your time, it has to benefit somebody. That's it, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, just make sure that you're doing something for somebody. Now, sometimes you have to learn before you can do for somebody, right? And you guys are so lucky today. There's so many things that you can do. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you can sit down and write mobile games for some other people, right? You can write programs, you can paint, but do something for somebody else. That would be my advice. And enjoy it while you do it, because that's the key. All right. Yes.
One last one. So your son, I think you mentioned your son's major is biology and
computational biology.
Computational biology. So for millennials, for high schoolers, would you, based on your observation of high-tech industry, automotive industry, Google, what kind of major you think will be?
Well, if you want to make a lot of money, and I'll be straight with you, go do machine learning, artificial intelligence. You're all set for a long time. Now, if you don't care about money, my advice is, do something with computer, do something with, you can study economy, you can study finance, you can study psychology, you can study philosophy, right? But have some computer piece. Now, if you don't like computer at all, that's fine. You can be a writer, right? I mean, we need people in marketing. So in the STEM field, mechanical is great to make things and have fun with it. I don't think that there's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of demand in that. Obviously, if you're really, really good, I mean, somebody will pay you a lot of money for it. But if you want to play the odds, I'll say the biggest demand today, I mean, Google, we spend, and you know this, it's almost a full-time job to hire an engineer. When you have a goal to build an engineering team, I mean, it is so hard to find engineers. Engineers make more money than everybody else in the company because they're so hard to find. And Google goes everywhere in the world to go find them. And it's not just Google, every company. So I'll say, computer science. I believe that biotech is going to be even more important, right? gene sequencing and to be able to find cure for diseases, right? So those areas are very promising. And again, personally, a lot of people believe automation and robotics and all those things, but I think the brain is the most important piece, right? So AI and machine learning will be more important than anything else. One subject, and that's my favorite, and if you guys can spend time on that, that is statistics. Doing calculus and all those things is great. But if you are strong in statistics, you can go into so many domains, right? I mean, pretty much the whole world run on statistics. So I always encourage everybody to take heavy dose of statistics, and it's fun. So with that, I wish you guys all best luck. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.